it's well, the Torah doesn't change, but we change. And it's so interesting to view things. I was just going to say, I remember when I was 21 or 22 and I read Madame Bovary, which is about a woman who's like so in love with love and ultimately kills herself because she can't have a fulfilled love. I thought it was so romantic. And then I read it again when I was in my late 30s and I thought, what an idiot she was. Well, how ridiculous, you know? So it's interesting, same book. And I feel the Torah is even more of that. So, okay, so let's share. Where's the share? Here. And okay, let me open up the amazing power. I have so many levels of Toldot. I have Kabbalistic. Okay, now let me go back and share. Oh, hold on. Now let me do it again. There. Here it is. Okay. What happened? Oh my God. I don't know why the text is not coming up. All right, hold on a minute.
Oh, you see the little Microsoft Word? Oh, never mind.
Wait, let me do this. Share. And then I do this, right? Click this and say share. Okay, there it is. Okay. So it's interesting that the Parsha, first of all, doesn't start at the beginning of a chapter or the end of a chapter. It starts in the middle. It starts after Abraham dies and Isaac gets actually, it happens after Abraham dies and Isaac and Ishmael bury him and time passes. And now we go to this and we look at the Parsha is called Toldot, and Toldot means generations. So, Brad, in honor of your return, why don't you read?
These are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham fathered Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Padam Haram, the sister of Laban, the Aramean, to be his wife.
Keep going.
And Isaac pleaded with the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was barren. And the Lord responded to his plea, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. The children struggled together within her, and she said, "If so, why do I exist?"
Okay, we're going to look at that phrase in a minute. But why do you think they talk about Rebecca, and how rare is it that they mention the brother? They talk about her being the daughter of Bethuel, who was, I guess he was Abraham's cousin, because I think Nahor was Bethuel's father and Abraham's father, and then we have Lavan or Laban is the brother. She's the sister of Laban. Why do you think they would mention a brother in this story? If you know the Torah, you know why.
Because there's a relationship. They're like distant, like nephews, or she's a niece or something. That there's a family relationship.
We never really say that Ishmael or this one or is the son of so and so and then the brother of. But we know that, first of all, we already met him because when Rebecca, Abraham sent his servant to find a wife for Rebecca, Laban was there already. And he is going to be the father of Leah and Rachel. He is the father. So he's a very significant person in this whole family saga. So they're already sort of giving you, don't forget him because he plays a very significant part. And as well, he's also a deceiver, and there's going to be a lot of deceit happening as we read the story. And I don't know if they're saying there's a family of people who are deceive. We can decide about that, but he certainly is a big deceiver. As we know, he switches the sisters later before Jacob marries them. But he's a significant person in this, so they're bringing him up soon. They're bringing him up. Okay, I have to go back to the share. Okay, and then we talk about, this is so interesting. The relationship between Isaac and Rebecca, have we ever heard, well, ever heard. We've had one patriarch before, but it's interesting that Isaac prays or pleads, the word can be either way, to God for his wife, not for himself. You know, he doesn't plead, please give me a son. He pleads for his wife because I'm sure as we know, barren women through the story are distraught and heartbroken and they suffer. And it seems to me there's an interesting relationship here between Isaac and Rebecca. Does anybody remember when they first met, what happened? Does anybody remember, if you read, it was like 2 weeks ago, I think, what happened when they met? Nobody remembers? Rebecca? Yeah.
Well, it was basically love at first sight.
That's right. First of all, when she saw him, she says, "Who's that?" They said, "That's, your future husband." And it says, and she fell off her camel. She fell off her camel. She was much younger than he. He was 40, so she was, we don't know, teenager, 18, 19, or younger, 15. And also it says, Isaac took her into his mother's tent and he loved her. It didn't say that he loved her and then he married her, but he took her in and he loved her, and he took her into Sarah's tent. And there's this sense that Isaac was very grief-stricken when his mother died. Maybe never went in there. And there's a midrash that the Shekhinah, the divine feminine presence, when Sarah was in the tent, hovered over the tent, it disappeared, and now it came back with Rebecca. So Rebecca, they had a very strong relationship. And also, we know she was a strong character already. How do we know that? Does anybody remember what happened? What shows her sort of strong, opinionated, confident character? Rebecca.
Well, first of all, she had good physical strength because she was carrying those urns of water back and forth. And those urns, I suppose, had a lot of gallons of water, but she made decisions for herself, irregardless of what the family said.
That's absolutely right. When Abraham's servant Eliezer came and he actually prayed to God, "Please show me the right woman for my master's son," Rebecca came and he said, "May I have water?" And she said, "Not only will I give you water, but I will water your camels." That's our Rebecca Gottfried is referring to, that took a lot to water camels would be a lot of work. So she did that. And then he said, "I need a place to stay." And Rebecca, without even consulting anyone, said, "You can come to my father's house." She ended up being the family of Abraham, the cousins. And when Eliezer said, "I want to bring her back to my, master's son, to Isaac, to be a wife," they said yes. But then the mother said, "Oh, let her stay 10 days. Let her stay for a while before she leaves." And they said, "Let's ask Rebecca." They asked her what she wanted to do, and she said, "No, I'm ready to go. Let's go." And so she went. So she's a strong, I often sometimes think it should have been Abraham, Rebecca, and Jacob, not Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because she really is the one who was instrumental in sort of creating history. She took action, whereas Isaac, and we'll talk about that also. Why was he such a passive guy? But okay, so then she said he prays for her, and then she gets pregnant, and then they say the babies are struggling in her womb. It's very interesting about this idea of twins like Remus and Romulus, in Rome and all that, this mythical idea. But then she says, "If so, why do I exist?" What do you think that means? I mean, I did not, there's translations, but I took the literal translation of what it says. It says, "Im kain lama anochi." If so, why am I? What am I? Why am I? So what do you think she was saying? She's in a lot of pain. The babies are kicking in her stomach. So what is she saying? Come on, you have opinions. Nobody has an idea? Cindy, come on.
Well, just that the pain's too much. Is she really going to be able to make it?
Okay. If so, why am I? Why am I? if this is pregnancy, why do I even live? Is this what women have to go through? Is this what I prayed for? Why do I exist for such pain? I mean, like, is this it? I mean, oh my God, if this is what it is, I don't even want to live. It's too painful. It's too difficult. Brad, do you want to say something?
Well, I mean, it just made me think of the beginning of Genesis, where women, after the exile from Eden, women are going to be plagued with the pains of childbirth, and men with labor,
Right.
a life of labor. So this is the fulfillment of that, of what God had ordained.
Yes, I agree with you. Um,
It's
but
childbirth of twins without an epidural.
exactly. I mean, well, first of all, in the ancient world, like one out of, I don't know, 10 or 8 women died in childbirth. For thousands of years, it was a terrible ordeal and very scary. But I also think it's also like a young woman and she says, oh, I'm going to have natural childbirth. And then she has no idea what she's talking about. I mean, it was excruciating. And I think it's interesting that the Torah um, mentions it, that she goes, oh my God, if this is it, forget it. I don't even want to live. It's so painful. And we don't often get the interior feelings or emotions in the Torah, in the prophets, certainly in the early prophets with David and Samuel and Solomon, we get all their inner thoughts, but different writers. So she's really in pain. And then what's amazing is she prays to God and asks him, we're going to look at that, and God answers her. This is the second woman that God has been in communication with directly. Who was the first one? Does anybody remember? Yes, Rebecca.
Hagar.
Hagar. When she was in the desert, God spoke to her and said, your son is going to be a wild ass of a man, and he's going to be wild, and don't worry, he's going to be a nation too. So that was one woman in distress over her child. And now here's Rebecca. So let's look at what she asks and what God says. Okay, so Cindy, why don't you read right here? So she went.
So she went to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you shall be divided. The one shall be stronger than the other, the older shall serve the younger.
Okay, so in Hebrew, the older shall, that's how kind of like the traditional translation, but it also can be read, because Hebrew is very sort of, the verbs go back, different places. It also could have been the older shall be served by the younger. And so it's, it could have been the other way, but based on what happens, and that's not what Rebecca interprets it. And there are some rabbis who say, it could have been either way, and this is the way she interpreted it. But the traditional idea is 2 nations, and one shall be stronger than the other. The stronger one, what do you think that means, stronger? Do you think it means physically stronger, mentally stronger, spiritually stronger? What would you think?
I'm thinking mentally, and that covers everything.
Mentally stronger. Okay, so we know that one was very much physically stronger than the other, but we don't know which is which at this point. So so she went to God and God answered her, so she had a prophecy. Yeah. That's why Rebecca is considered one of the prophets, or sometimes she is, sometimes not, but I feel like this is a prophecy. She received a prophecy. Okay, Cindy, one more.
Well, I kind of see that last line as her justification for switching the boys for the blessing.
Exactly. However, I want to just look this up in Hebrew again, because I know that it could be both ways. So did she know that then, or did she, hold on. I'm trying to Toldot.
Well, it's interesting because Isaac served Esau the soup.
Not Isaac, Jacob.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Jacob served the soup.
Okay, so it says Shnei mi two are in you, and they were Ulom Milam Yamatz, and one will be stronger. The Rav Ya'avod Sa'ir. Yes, it could go either way. The older will overcome or work for the younger, or the older will be worked for by the younger. The older will be served by the younger. It can go either way in Hebrew, but the story starts to play out Jacob. Okay, so one more, Cindy.
When her days to give birth were completed, behold, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red, all his body like a hairy cloak, so they called his name Esau. Afterwards, his brother came out with his hand holding Esau's heel, so his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them, so it was 20 years after they met.
20 years after they met, and she still had to be fertile to give children, so she had to be in her 30s or 20s. Maybe she couldn't be in her 20s. Let's say he took her when she was 14 or 15, 35. That would be pretty old, but it couldn't be much older. So, okay, so they had Esau, and Yaakov sort of means heel or follow. So that's and I don't understand, I don't know the actual origin of the word Esau, but I guess it has something to do with being hairy. Okay, so there they are, and they were only, one was holding on to the other, and remember they were fighting, quote unquote, in the womb, one trying to get out first to be the oldest, but it was Esau came out first. Okay, Merle, do you want to read?
Starting when the boys grew up, Esau
Yeah.
was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, while Jacob was a mild man, dwelling in tents. Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob.
Okay.
Once again,
Wait, hold on. So they
okay.
were totally different. What do you think mild man means? Mild. It's actually the word in Hebrew is tam, which can mean simple, or it can also mean pure, tamim, or pure, like mild, but pure. It can also mean
I would think kind. He was kind.
kind,
I
not
was thinking he was gentle and maybe shy.
gentle and shy.
Our mama's
And
boy.
a mama's boy, or so you have to be a mama's boy to be a bookish or poetic or a non-jock. Does that automatically make you a mama's boy, do you think?
Well, but he had the close relationship with Rebecca while his brother was closer to the father.
Right. And okay, so what do you think? Why do you think Isaac?
So can I jump
Please.
in?
Yeah.
I think it's maybe the dichotomy that was made at that time between those who led the active life and those who led the contemplative life.
Yes.
I mean, it's clear that Esau is active, and maybe this word mild refers more to someone who's more thoughtful, contemplative, etc.
Right.
Which was a very common dichotomy that was made during that time in different cultures.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So I'm curious, why do you think Isaac do you think it's obvious why Isaac preferred Esau or connected to Esau?
Well, he brought him food.
Well, yeah, but he was a hunter. It wasn't just that. I think, yeah, somebody else have an opinion, Rebecca?
Well, he was a provider.
Yeah, he was a
He
provider.
took care of the family. That was the purpose. So if the purpose of women was to bear children, the men was to provide for the family. And if Isaac was old, yeah,
they were also shepherds. They had sheep and everything. So I mean, I don't think it was only that, but I mean, it's interesting. He was the jock. He was the physically, the guy who went out and fought and was in the world. And you know how a lot of fathers love their sons who are great athletes. And one of the reasons, I mean, unless anybody else has an opinion, your son fulfills what you are not. And Isaac was a very passive guy. He had had this trauma, from the There's a lot of talk about the trauma that he experienced from almost being sacrificed, how he didn't talk. His mother died. He was traumatized. He never spoke to his father after the sacrifice again, after that experience. He seems to be a more passive, almost like, well, not like Jacob, but there's qualities of Rebecca kind of ran the family and he was more passive. And so I think Esau manifested everything he wasn't, and he enjoyed seeing his son be this physical, hairy, big hunter man, alpha male that he was not. That's what I think that's what he really liked about Esau. What does anybody else have any thoughts on that either way? No? Okay. So, let's go back. Jonathan, do you want to sing? Sing. Read? I don't know where that came from. Read? Okay. Here's the famous story, 29. Jonathan, do you want to read?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just actually turning something off. Okay. Once when Jacob was cooking a pottage, Esau came in from the field and he was exhausted. And Esau said to Jacob, "Let me eat some of that red stew, for I am exhausted." Therefore, his name was called Edom.
Okay, so Adom means red, like Magen David Adom, the red Jewish, Adom. And that's also Rome. They take that he says he's descended from Rome, but actually in Hebrew, it doesn't even say red stew. It says, give me some of that red stuff, that red. It's Adom. Give me some of that red mess you're making, some food. He didn't even call it food. Give me that red stuff, because I'm so tired from, being out in the fields and you're sitting around cooking. Go ahead.
And Jacob said, "Sell me your birthright now." And Esau said, "I'm about to die. Of what use is a birthright to me?" And Jacob said, "Swear to me now." And so he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and drank and rose and went his way. And thus Esau despised his birthright.
Okay, so it's interesting. Do you think, I've wondered, do you think Esau meant it? That he meant it when he said that? Okay, fine, give me the food and I'll sell my birthright. Cindy.
Well, I'm confused. Why did Esau think he was about to die? Because he doesn't die.
No, he just meant I'm dying of hunger.
Oh, okay.
I'm dying of hunger. I gotta have food. Give me food. And he said, well, give me your birthright. So this reminds me of I had a friend who was a Holocaust survivor. I wrote my play about him, but he told me that after the war, he was like 19 years old. I think he was either in Poland or Germany. I'm not sure. Maybe Germany because it was a DP camp. But anyway, the Catholic Church was giving $50 or 50, whatever their Deutschmarks or whatever, for any Jew who would convert to Catholicism. And so he told me, so I converted 10 times. Meaning, he said, yes, oh, sure, okay. So I wonder if Esau really meant it, or he just said, fine, give me the food. And because he certainly is horrified when he loses it later, like that was totally unexpected. So I wonder if it was just, okay, yeah, right. Like as if you could really sell your birthright, but just give me the food. There's a contempt or not taking seriously something that Jacob took seriously. But I wonder if Isaac took it seriously when he actually said that. But that's a very famous story, how he sold his birthright for, a bowl of lentil soup or lentil stew or whatever. And there's a lot of prejudice against Esau, but he was just kind of a slightly dumb jock, it seems to me, but not a bad guy, but not, I mean, Jacob was so much sharper for better or for worse. And they had no love between them. Okay, so who has not read? Who would like to read? Douglas, would you like to read? Okay, we're skipping this. There's this whole interlude. I don't know if we'll have time. We'll come back if there is, where Isaac does almost the exact same thing that Abraham does. Is he doesn't go to Egypt, but he goes somewhere else and he passes off his wife as his sister, and they get in trouble again. But I'm not going to go into that because I want to stick to the Jacob and Esau story unless we have time at the end. But it's suddenly this interlude while he goes, I don't know where his sons are, and he passes off Rebecca as his sister, and the king Abimelech says, why did you lie to me? And, go home, get out of here. So that's just another thing. So let's go to this. This is, I want to go to here. When Esau was 40 years old. So time has passed. Now, how old is Jacob? I mean, Isaac at this point. If Esau's 40, how old is Isaac? We just read how old he was
80.
when he had
40, 80,
he was 60 when he had the
60.
children.
60, 100.
He's 100 years old now. And how old is Rebecca? I don't know, 70? I don't know, whatever. But when he's 40 years old, he didn't get married till he was 40 years old. And who hasn't read? Douglas, do you want to read? Hello? Yes? No? Maybe so?
I'll read.
Okay, Rebecca. Okay.
When Esau was 40 years old, he took Judith, the daughter of Beri, the Hittite, to be his wife, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon, the Hittite, and they made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah.
Okay, why? Why did they make life bitter?
They were idol worshippers.
They idol worshippers. And what does it say about Esau?
He didn't care about his birthright. He gives it up, and then he doesn't really even care about his heritage.
Right, exactly. And he made life bitter for Rebecca. And so, but even so, Isaac doesn't abandon him. Isaac doesn't change his mind about him. And I read an interesting article about how Isaac knew of Esau's faults, his flaws. This is a commentary by Rabbi Lord, Jonathan Sachs about it. And he said, but Isaac had, been abandoned by his father, when he almost killed him. And in a way abandoned by his mother, and he saw his father kick out Ishmael and Hagar. So he saw that family being abandoned, and he was determined not to abandon his son and to be a better father than Abraham, so to speak. And so he was going to support his son, as many parents do. Your kid is flawed, your kid has problems, but you still want to stand by them and love them because they're your child. So that's one of the reasons, that even despite he made him life bitter and he gave up the birthright, Isaac still wanted to give him the blessing. Okay, so Douglas, I'm looking at you. Do you want to read, or you're not interested? No, thanks. Okay, Jan, and then we'll start again. Okay, so let's go to. Okay, so when Isaac was old, okay, I think he's reached that point. Go ahead.
When Isaac was old and his eyes were dim so that he could not see, he called Esau, his older son, and said to him, "My son?" And he answered, "Here I am." He said, "Behold, I am old. I do not know the day of my death. Now then, take your weapons, your quiver, and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt for game for me, and prepare for me delicious food such as I love, and bring it to me so that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die."
So, I love what does this tell you about the ceremony of giving a blessing? What does this little thing tell you about the ceremony of giving a blessing? that there was a meal connected to it, that there was a ceremony where you went out, you hunted, you killed, you prepared, you ate, you blessed. So there's like an ancient ceremony of how to bless. You didn't just give the blessing. The son had to do something. We think of, rites of, wait, I lost you now. Here we go. Rites of passage in ancient societies where you have to kill an animal, do a hunt or whatever. And so he asked his son to do that so that I could give you the blessing. And we know that there were sheep there because we're going to see what Rebecca is going to do right now. So let's go to the share. Wait, okay, share. Okay, let me just do this here so you can see. Whoops. What's going on here? Oh, sorry. It's so annoying.
We can see the share.
Oh, you can see the share? Okay, because I have to do this for a minute. Stop share, now this, now share. All right, and I'm trying to move you guys over so that you're not blocking the share. Okay, so now what happened? Brad, right here.
Now, Rebecca was listening when Isaac spoke to his son Esau.
That's
Does it really
interesting, right?
say his
Yeah.
son and not their son?
Exactly.
Esau? So when Esau went to the field to hunt for game and bring it, Rebecca said to her son Jacob, I heard your father speak to your brother Esau. Bring me game and prepare for me delicious food that I may eat it and bless you before the Lord before I die.
That's what she heard. She's quoting Isaac here. She's quoting Isaac. This is what I heard your father say to Esau. Continue.
Now,
Brad.
therefore, my son, obey my voice as I command you. Go to the flock and bring me 2 good young goats, so that I may prepare from them delicious food for your father, such as he loves. And you shall bring it to your father to eat, so that he may bless you before he dies.
Okay, but I just want you to read Jacob's response, Brad.
But Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, Behold, my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I'm a smooth man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be mocking him and bring a curse upon myself and not a blessing.
Okay. Okay, let's stop for a minute. First of all, you're right, Brad, the way you read it, like his son, Esau, her son, and then she says, behold, my son, like they have their favorites, or this is, my son, that's his son. But she has this plot, and then I'll ask your opinion. What do you think of her plot, and what do you think of Jacob's response? What is Jacob's response? How does that strike you?
Well, he doesn't do a moral concern. It's a, will this work?
Exactly.
He's
Doesn't
afraid
say,
of it not working. Yeah.
says, is that, but that's wrong. That doesn't even come into it. What? Why can't do that? I would be deceiving my father. No. Can't do it. She says, do it. And he says, well, what if I get caught? What if he knows it's not me? So, wow. I mean, she, has this very strong feeling that we can believe that he's the one who should receive the blessing, that she heard the prophecy and she's fulfilling the right thing. And that I also think, what do you think, is Isaac being blind a literal thing and also a metaphor? Is that a possibility? His blindness, being blind to Esau's behavior, Esau's character, who Esau is, or are you delusional? You think he can, inherit the blessing and carry on, our legacy? You think him? That's just not, it's not going to happen. He's already married 2 pagan wives. They're worshiping idols, and you want to give him the blessing, from Abraham and Isaac to this Adonai, to the one God, where he's already probably worshiping goddesses and gods in his household. But Jacob, there's not a moment of hesitation about should I do this or not do this in the story. It's like, well, what if he knows it's? And then I love what Rebecca said. Yeah.
Well, why would he be hesitating? I mean, he had the birthright. I don't understand why you'd think he should be hesitating at that point. It seems to me what this is showing again is more his thoughtful side, that he realizes that this might not work because of the Harry issue, whereas Esau was very quick to, without thinking about the consequences of giving up the birthright. So I guess I'm a little bit puzzled as to why you think he should have a moral angst at this point.
Okay, Cindy.
But Jacob did this between himself and Esau, but Isaac doesn't know that they switch because he thinks he's going to give the blessing to Esau. And he's already said to Esau, go get me the food and then I will bless you. So he wasn't aware of the switch.
I think it's interesting. I hear what you're saying, Brad and Cindy, both of you. I think it's interesting that it appears that Rebecca never shared God's message with Isaac, because he seems unaware of it, which I think is interesting. She never told him that God said this to me and that we should be favoring Jacob, and so Isaac blissfully, preferred or was going to give it to Esau. But isn't there another way to get the birthright or the blessing besides going to your blind father and dressing up as your other brother and tricking him? I mean, does that sit well with you, Brad?
Is there another way? Your question, is there another way
I mean, could
to
he
get
have
the birthright?
Yeah, could he have gone to?
That's an interesting question. I don't have an answer
I
to
mean,
that.
could he have claimed, said father, or couldn't they have gone together to him and said, this is what God said, and this is a mistake or whatever, or father. And actually, we'll see later that Isaac actually blesses Jacob twice. And then there's a suggestion by some commentary that he knew very well what was happening. So I wanted your opinion on that. But in the meanwhile, Jacob says, what if my father catches me? There is some concern, but he'll think I'm mocking me, but he'll curse me. What if he curses me? This would blow up in my face, our face. So, oh no, I have to share first. Sorry. Okay, Jonathan, why don't you read what Rebecca says, which I think every mother says sometimes, right here.
11.
13.
Oh, his mother said to him, let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice and go bring them to me.
Let the sin be on my head. Do what I say. Continue.
So he went and took them and brought them to his mother, and his mother prepared delicious food, such as his father loved.
Keep going.
Then Rebekah took the best garments of Esau, her older son, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son. And the skins of the young goats she put on his hand and on the smooth part of his neck. And she put the delicious food and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob.
So she gave her Esau's clothes, which probably smelled like him, and she covered his smooth arms with the fur, the pelts of the kids the goats they had just cooked, and and then Rebecca, go here 18, read.
So he went into his father and said, my father. And he said, here I am. Who are you, my son? And Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Now sit up and eat of my game, that your soul may bless me.
Okay. So Brad, are you okay with that?
No, I'm not okay with the fact that he says he's Esau. I
Right,
think he could have done this without saying that without lying.
right. So now we're getting into some real deceiving behavior. Right. Okay. Rebecca, and would you read, and then Merle after that? Okay, so let me go to share. Okay. So this is like the real, okay. Okay. Right here. 20, Rebecca.
But Isaac said to his son, "How is it that you have found it so quickly, my son?" He answered, "Because the Lord your God granted me success."
Okay, so Isaac says, how did you kill the animal and make the food so quickly and come back? And Jacob says, because God, your God, not our God, I think is interesting, gave me success. Keep going.
Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Please come near, that I may feel you, my son, to know whether you are really my son Esau or not." So Jacob went near to Isaac his father, who felt him and said, "The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau." And he did not recognize him because his hands were hairy, like his brother Esau's hands.
Keep going.
So he blessed him. He said, "Are you really my son Esau?" He answered, "I am." Then he said, "Bring it near to me that I may eat of my son's game and bless you." So he brought it near to him and he ate, and he brought him wine and he drank.
So he's lied now 3 times. He said, God blessed me and I was able to, kill a game quickly. He said, are you really my son? Let me feel you. Yes, I am. And again, the voice is Jacob, but the feeling, the arms are Esau. So he's going really into the ruse now, really going deep into the deception to get this blessing. Okay. Any comments or thoughts about him? Because this is, we're the children of Israel and he's Israel and he's the one, it's so interesting. But on the other hand, it comes back to torment him for the rest of his life. This action leads to so many terrible things happening in Jacob's life and deception that there's commentaries, who think, he brought this because he got the wrong wife. His sons pretended to kill Joseph and sent him into slavery. His daughter Dinah was raped. I mean, he had so many traumas, and did it stem from this deception is a question that we could ask. Okay, so I said, Merle, you were going to read, and then Jan, about that.
I have a question.
Yes.
I find it interesting that Isaac didn't pursue his confusion over knowing the voice wasn't the right voice, but the hair was the right voice, that he just kind of dropped it there. That is kind of confusing to me.
Right. And some commentaries say he knew it. He realized it, but then they want to, I don't know. There's so many possibilities, but let's finish the story and then I think we can talk more about this. So hold on, because so much more is yet to come. Because when Esau comes back, Okay, so Merle.
Then his father Isaac said to him, come near and kiss me, my son. So he came near and kissed him. And Isaac smelled the smell of his garments and blessed him and said, see, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you.
So he gives him, let me just explain that the the blessing of the firstborn is double the portion in terms of wealth and material goods. That's always the case. You get double that your other brothers or, the heirs. And then it says, you are the leader of the clan. You are the chief. You are the boss. You're the one in charge. And then there's the spiritual curse. That's also what happened with Abraham. If you remember, God said, go to the land I will see, and you will be a blessing, and those that bless you will be blessed, and those that curse you will be cursed. So he's taking a piece of that blessing that his father got from God, that Isaac's father, Abraham got from God, but he's giving him all of the material wealth of the family, the double of the portion. Okay. So, Cindy, have you read?
I'll do it.
Okay, hold on. Let me get it. Whoops. Share. Because here's the drama now, the heartbreaking drama, in my opinion. Okay, go ahead.
As soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, when Jacob had scarcely gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, Esau his brother came in from his hunting. He had also prepared delicious food and brought it to his father. And he said to his father, "Let my father arise and eat of his son's game, that he may bless me." His father Isaac said to him, "Who are you?" He answered, "I am your son, your firstborn Esau." Then Isaac trembled very violently and said, "Who was I then that hunted game and brought it to me? And I ate it all before you came, and I have blessed him. Yes, and he shall be blessed."
Who was it? Who was it he asked? Keep going.
As soon as Esau heard the words of his father, he burst into wild and bitter sobbing and said to his father, "Bless me too, father." But he said, "Your brother came with guile, and he has taken away your blessing."
Oh my God, so terrible. Okay, all right, why don't you just finish this little episode?
Okay. Esau said, "Is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has cheated me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing." Then he said, "Have you not reserved a blessing for me?" Isaac answered and said to Esau, "Behold, I have made him lord over you and all his brothers." So do they have more brothers?
They must.
"I have given to him for servants, and with grain and wine I have sustained him. What then can I do for you, my son?"
Okay, all right, Jonathan, why don't you just read this part?
Yes.
Then I want to talk about it.
Esau said to his father, "Have you but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father." And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And then Isaac his father answered and said to him, "Behold, away from the fatness of the earth shall your dwelling be, and away from the dew of heaven on high. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you shall break his yoke from your neck."
Oh my God. So it's very heartbreaking, the emotion, like Isaac trembled and Esau cried violently and wept and whatever. And yet, the rabbis try to always portray Esau as a bad guy. But how do you feel about Esau in this story now? What are your feelings about him? And what are your feelings about Jacob, Brad?
Well, I'm really puzzled at this two-step process of the sale of the birthright and then the blessing. And how can I put this? Once you've sold your birthright, doesn't that then entitle you to the blessing? I get back to your question about was there another way that this could have happened? Once the birthright is sold or given up, isn't this the only way that this could have developed? With the blessing being given then to Jacob?
I mean, I think I
Once
know
the
it's
once the birthright is Jacob's, isn't he then entitled to the blessing?
I know it seems like the birthright and the blessing are the same thing, but I guess they're not. I just want to see if Eitz Chaim says something in that moment where it says, first he took away my birthright. Well, it just says he didn't know that. Isaac didn't know that, but it doesn't really maybe the birthright gives you the right to the blessing, but it's not consolidated until you give the blessing. You know what I mean? I'm not sure. It seems like they're two separate things. It's not explained, but I understand your thinking. But Isaac didn't know about the birthright. And I guess Esau thought, even though he could still get the blessing because his father said, I'll give you the blessing. So maybe it was a miscommunication. But the heartbrokenness of Esau is so poignant to me in the Torah here, and the lack of, I don't know. Well, the Torah is very terse anyway, so we can, interpret things. He was concerned, but the way he said, "Yes, Father, it's me. I'm really Esau," and then Esau knows immediately that it's Jacob, and that he feels so heartbroken and sobbing, and his blessing is not much. It's certainly not a material blessing. He doesn't get any of the wealth. He doesn't get any of that, and he won't be the leader. Yes, Jan.
Well, I think it goes back to the very beginning when you asked the question, did Esau really realize what he was doing when he said, take the food and, I'll give you the
Birthright. Yeah.
Did he really know? You mentioned that in the beginning.
Yeah.
And, he was just kind of being flippant and said it and didn't really mean it.
I think you could be right. Now, I want to just show you what happens. Now, I'm going to read this. Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, the days of mourning for my father are approaching. In other words, my father's going to die soon. And after he dies, I will kill my brother. So here we are, another brother wanting to kill another brother. But the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said to him, behold, your brother Esau comforts himself about you by planning to kill you. Therefore, my son, obey my voice. Arise, flee to Laban, my brother in Haran. See, that's why I think they mentioned him in the beginning. And stay with him a while until your brother's fury turns away, until your brother's anger turns away from you, and he forgets what you have done to him. Then I will send and bring you back from there. Why should I be bereft of both of you in one day? In other words, I don't want him to kill you, then he'll have to be punished and I'll lose both of you. And let's see, how much longer is this? Well, what happens is Rebecca then manipulates Isaac and says, I loathe my life because of these Hittite women. If Jacob marries one of these Hittite women like these, one of the women of the land, what good will my life be to me? So Isaac basically calls Jacob and sends him so that he won't marry a Hittite like his brother. And he goes to Laban. He escapes and gets away. And the last part of the sentence, though, which is kind of heartbreaking, is that Esau sees how his parents were upset with his wives, and so he goes and marries a daughter of Ishmael, his uncle, or his great uncle. So, no, his uncle, because it's his father's brother, half brother, Ishmael. So then he goes and marries some Ishmaelite women to try to do the right thing. So I feel like Esau is always one step behind, but trying to do his best. And because of that birthright, really the one egregious thing that he did was agree to sell his birthright. Other than that, what did he do wrong? I don't know. Does anybody have any thoughts about it? No.
Well, the overriding thing for me is what you said in the beginning, Rabbi, is that Rebecca was fulfilling the prophecy.
Right. She never saw Jacob again. She died. Jonathan, do you want to say something?
Like nothing huge or anything, but just that, like in the scriptures, there's a lot of these really challenging often gross passages that you really have to come at pretty deeply. And, some of them are things that I personally don't actually try and justify them on the surface level. Like, for instance, you have a passage that says, go kill all the men, women, and children. And then you have another passage that says, take the virgin girls for yourself, right? And I'm sitting here like I'm a soldier in Iraq, and I'm going to my colonel. I'm like, when should I kill all the women and children, and when should I take the virgin girls to myself?
No, never.
But, right, you shouldn't. But there's a kind of like a hidden thing. Like, for instance, if you're trying to quit smoking, you don't keep a pack of cigarettes under the bed. You get rid of everything, right? You get rid of every last man, woman, and child. But then in other situations, like say music, where you probably aren't going to want to listen to like death metal and all this stuff all the time, but nice relaxing music. There are religious people that say like music is evil, don't do it.
Yeah,
and they're
that half these things that are written are like, certainly in the book of Genesis, probably in other books, they're legends. They were written 1,000 years later. They're not necessarily true. I mean, the Talmud says if you kill one person, execute one person in 70 years, even though there's the death penalty, it's considered a bloodthirsty court. I mean, there's a lot of, it's on a level of saga almost, or legend. But what's interesting about this story, this family story, is everything could be interpreted in two ways: for the good or, the mistake. Did they make mistakes, or were they following a prophecy or whatever? And what are the consequences of our actions? So I think that's so interesting about the Torah and our heroes, or our patriarchs and matriarchs. Sometimes we learn what not to do by their mistakes. We see what they did wrong and we go, no, that's not a good choice. He was a human. He made this choice. But the Torah can also say, don't do that, because it says, and I'm going to close on this, I keep thinking about the 10 Commandments, where God says, when you break my commandments, I have punishment down to the 4th generation. And it's like, literally God's punishing you, or is it generational trauma? Is it psychological damage? What happens to the 4th generation when you are acting in a certain way? How does it affect your children, your grandchildren, etc.? And Israel, I mean, Jacob ends up his name being changed to Israel, which means wrestle with God. And we're really wrestling with ourselves, you know what I mean, about what choices to make. So I leave you with those thoughts. Shabbat Shalom, happy Thanksgiving, and it was a pleasure to study with you, and I'll see you next time. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Shabbat Shalom.
Bye. Shabbat Shalom.
And Susan, read the rest of my message, would you, when you have time?
I will, of course. Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.